Hey, John here with Prime Studios Technical Photography. Now in this video I'm going to show you how you can develop your own black and white film at home. Now if you're new to film photography and you're not quite at the developing stage yet, there's some other videos of mine you probably want to check out first. The first one is up here, which is how an SLR camera works. Over here is how to load and unload 35mm film. And then down here are two videos of some of the most popular film cameras used by students and how to use them, the Canon AE-1 and my personal favorite, the Pentax K1000. Now in order to help you out, I've tried to make this video as easy to use as possible and this process as simple as possible. So I've done a couple of things to accommodate that. The first thing is that up above me I'm going to put all the different sections of the video and links so that you can just click on a section and jump right to it. Or you go through a section and you want to watch it again, you just click on that section again and then it'll repeat. Therefore you can very easily navigate the entire video. Now the second thing I've done is created a special PDF file which you can find in the description down below. And this PDF file will not only act as a cheat sheet which you can print out, which will have all the basic instructions of the developing process, as well as temperature and timing tables for different kinds of film, but it will also have links to every single piece of equipment. So it's going to have a list of equipment and next to it a link, linking you directly of where you can buy that equipment. Now all this being said, there are quite a few ways that you can develop black and white film, but what I'm going to show you in this video is one of the most common and one of the easiest ways to start off in film and developing it by yourself. So therefore I'm going to be developing one of the most commonly used films, which is Ilford HP5 400 ISO film. So one of the first things you're going to need to do is mix your chemicals together. Now there's three main chemicals that you're going to use to develop film. There's the developer itself, there's the fixer, which makes the film no longer sensitive to light, and stop bath, which actually stops the developing process. So it goes developer, stop bath, fixer, and then photo flow, which is this other chemical, but I'm not going to mix this from the concentrate because I'm a little lazy and it's not quite necessary. One warning I do need to give is that these chemicals can be dangerous in certain circumstances, so you do need to be cautious. For example, if you're using the developing tank or mixing the chemicals or whatever, and you're going to get a little bit on your fingers. So if you want to wear gloves, definitely wear gloves. If you want to do eye protection, lab coat, whatever. That is perfectly fine. Because you don't want to do something like, oh, you know, you're messing with the chemicals and then you rub your eye, it's going to get in your eye. That's going to be really bad. If it has prolonged contact with your skin, that's going to be bad. If you ingest it, that's going to be really bad. So you need to respect the chemicals that you're working with. All right, so the first chemical we're going to mix is the developer. Now we're using what's called Kodak D76 developer, which is one of the most common ones used. Now it comes in these smaller packets, which is for making 1 liter, so it's a powder that you mix with water. You can also buy it in larger bags so that you can mix it in larger containers. Like this is a 3.75 liter container, but we're gonna just mix 1 liter. Now we're gonna do this one first because you have to mix it at a water temperature of 122 to 131 degrees Fahrenheit. So the tap water that you're using needs to be that temperature. All right, so one of the first things I'm going to do, I'm going to take my infrared thermometer here, which is my preferred method of measuring the temperature of everything. And I'm going to go ahead and use my little beaker here to try to get my water as close to that temperature as possible, somewhere between 125 and 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so it looks like, as I'm sure you can tell, my apartment is older, but I can only get the water temperature up to about 114 degrees Fahrenheit. And so that's what I'm going to have to work with. Now you should always strive for 121 to 135 degrees, but for the sake of the video, I'm just going to keep going. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut open my developing powder here and very carefully pour it into my Delta Tainer, which is the name brand of this particular container, which is specifically made for photochemicals. You can see it's opaque because exposure to light will degrade the chemicals faster. Now what we're making is what's called stock solution. And that's an important term, stock solution. It basically means the purest form of the solution, and it's going to come into play later when we're talking about how to mix our chemicals later for developing. So I'm going to use my funnel here. Now, in terms of mixing the chemical, you want to make sure and not shake it. That's not how you do it. You want to, I'm going to be using a glass stir rod in order to stir the chemical up to mix it up. And you want to go ahead and do that so that all of the chemical is nice and dissolved in the hot water. Okay, so once you're done mixing the developer, very thoroughly stirring it so that's all dissolved, you're going to want to go ahead and rinse off your stirring rod. Because otherwise, when you use it on the other chemicals, there could be cross-contamination. You want to make sure it's nice and clean. And because this is at a nice high temperature now, we need to let it cool off to about room temperature, which can take a while. So you may want to do this the day before you actually develop. Alright, so thankfully the next two chemicals we have to mix can be mixed at a temperature that's room temperature, so about 75 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit. So the next one we're going to do is stop bath, which this is indicator stop bath. So this bottle right here is a bottle of concentrated indicator stop bath. So this bottle will last you a really long time because you just need a tiny little bit to mix with tap water in order to make a whole liter. And the nice thing about stop bath and fixer, unlike developer, is that you can pour them back into the bottle after using them in the developing process and reuse them. And the indicator stop bath will actually change color under certain light to indicate that it is no longer useful, that you need to change it out. Now, in order to mix the stop bath, basically what it calls for is 16 milliliters of the concentrate mixed with about 1 liter of water. So in order to do that, I have a graduated beaker here that has much finer increments than my other sort of basic beakers. And so 16 milliliters is right there. So it's just a tiny, tiny amount. Another thing is that this chemical is quite strong in its smell. In other words, don't inhale it. So right about there. So that's it. That's all I need. What's kind of cool about this smell is that it kind of reminds me of when I was in high school and learning darkroom for the very first time. Now you want to make sure that your tap water temperature is at the correct temperature because you may live in a colder or warmer climate and you still want to make sure it's around 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Now also the other thing, usually when you're using your little funnel here, you want to rinse it out if you ever have chemicals going through it. Right now I just have tap water going through it. Okay, so now I have my cleaned off stirring rod. I'm going to go ahead and stir my mixture here and mix it all up. And then of course I'm going to rinse off my stirring rod. And that's ready to go. Alright, so the final chemical I'm going to mix is the fixer. Now as you can see, the fixer comes in a much larger powder container here, and it's concentrated powder for making 3.8 liters of fixer, which you can reuse for quite some time. So this Delta-tainer, or Data-tainer, I'm sorry, by Delta 1, is 3.75 liters. So it's going to be slightly more concentrated, but it's close enough. And this can also be mixed with room temperature water, so about 75 degrees. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open this up, cut this open. And of course you want to be very careful when you're pouring in the chemical so it doesn't go everywhere. And there we go. Okay, now of course you want to take your glass stirring rod and you want to stir this up as much as possible. Okay, so now that you have your three main chemicals mixed, the last thing you want to do is you want to grab some little sticky labels here like these, and you want to go ahead and write the date on them so that you know when the chemicals were mixed, because it can be very easy to forget. Now the typical shelf life stored in sort of normal darkened conditions where they're not going to be exposed to light, so like in a cabinet or whatever, is about 6 months. After that you're definitely going to need to remix the chemicals. Okay, so now you're probably wondering, how can you know the timing and the temperature and the sequence and all that of what you're supposed to do with these chemicals. So one of the easiest ways I found is an app called Massive Dev. Now there's a free version and a paid version, and I'm cheap enough to where I just have the free version. So you hit the plus button, and first we're going to choose our film. Let's see here, which is HP5 Plus. It's right here. Then we choose our developer that we're using, which is D76. Now there's a couple different options here. You can see it says D76 stock, 1+3, 1+2, 1+1. Now I like to use the 1+1. You can see the recommended sort of ISOs. Now what this means is the stock solution is what we just mix. So it's sort of the concentrated pure solution. But the 1:1 means 1 part developer and 1 part water. So that's the one I like to do because it will keep the developing time a little bit longer and leave a little more room for error if we in our timing. So I'm going to choose the ISO, which is 400, and now it's telling me here the development time, stop bath, fixing, hypo clear if you decide to use it, which we're not doing in this video, and then the final wash. So the developing time is going to be 13 minutes, then stop bath for 1 minute, fixing for 5 minutes, and then the final wash is 10 minutes and 30 seconds. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to prepare our chemicals for the developing process. So we're going to get them all ready so that we can just pour them right into the developing tank, which is what this is. Now for me, I typically like to do 500 milliliters just because I want to make sure the film is definitely covered, and that's it. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do the developer, which remember it's 1 part developer, 1 part stock solution. So first I'm going to go ahead and pour 250 milliliters of stock solution here. And then I'm going to go ahead and add 250 milliliters of water. Now for the other chemicals, they're just going to go straight in, and remember the stop bath and the fixture can be reused. So I'm going to go ahead and pour in about 500 milliliters of each of these. I like to use my infrared thermometer to take the temperature. Now all the timing I just showed you on the Massive Dev app relies on a temperature of 20 degrees Celsius, which is 68 degrees Fahrenheit. So if I measure them now, so that's pretty close already, 68, 72, 72. So what I typically like to do is put these in the refrigerator, and that way wait a few minutes and then they'll get down to 68 degrees. And you want to make sure that these are all as close as possible to 68 degrees Fahrenheit because timing and temperature is everything when developing film. So you can just go ahead and open up your fridge here and place them all in there. Usually I find about 15 to 30 minutes is completely sufficient for getting them to the right temperature. Now you want to make sure that when you're checking the temperature, you actually take the thing out and use the infrared thermometer. And then that'll give you a much more accurate reading. So the next step is to go ahead and take your film and load it into your developing tank. Now it's important, this is very important, because you need to do it in an environment that is completely free of light, that it's pitch black dark. So you can use something like this, which is called a changing bag. So I shot a roll of HP5 film, it's on my camera, I haven't taken it out yet. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to first take this roll of HP5 film, I'm going to sacrifice it. I'm going to do loading the tank in the light, which will completely destroy the film, keeping in mind that everything I'm doing right now has to be done inside this bag or inside a room that is absolutely pitch black so that no extra light hits the film and ruins your photos, because the film's still sensitive to light. Okay. So I have my fake roll, or it's a real roll, but I'm going to sacrifice it. So like I have that. Now you have your cap for your tank. You have this little doohickey here, which is for, you put it in and you can use it to turn the film reels inside to agitate them if you want. And the whole thing unscrews. So in the developing tank you have your lid, And then you're going to have multiple film reels. And these are made of plastic, which I strongly prefer over metal. I think they're a lot easier to use. And then you have your center column. Now the center column combined with the lid on top will make this a light, tight container, even though you're pouring chemicals in and out of it. Another thing that's cool is that this film reel right now, it's set to take 35mm film. But you can also unclick it and expand it so that it'll take medium format 120 film. So that's kind of cool. But we're doing 35mm film today, and you want to make sure your reel is dry. If it's wet, it could very easily tear the film. So I'm going to go ahead and set this aside. Now once again, you need to do this completely in the dark, complete blackness within this changing bag, which I'll show you in a second. But for now, I'm going to show you how to do it outside the bag. You're also going to need a pair of scissors and a bottle opener. So the first thing you're going to do, you're going to have all your pieces here already in the bag. You're going to seal up your bag, put your arms in here, and then you're going to find your film. Now the film is going to be hopefully all the way wound in. So I'm going to wind it all the way in. And some people like to leave a little tab out once they rewind their film in their camera. I found that rewinding all the way doesn't seem to have an effect of light leaks or anything like that. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is take your bottle opener and you're going to pry open the canister of film, and you want to go ahead and do it from the bottom because that's way easier. So you can see I'm prying it open here. Now at this point the film's pretty much ruined. It's been exposed to light, so really you can just pry the whole thing apart. Now as you can see, the whole roll of film is in here. Now keep in mind you're going to be doing this all by touch, by feel. You won't be able to see anything at all, so you're going to have to just figure out what's going on based on what you feel. There we go. Okay, so we have our entire roll here, which now of course is completely ruined because it's out in the light here, but it's just for demonstration purposes. So what you do is you take your film roll here, and it has this action right here which allows you to ratchet it, and so it will pull the film forward. So the first thing you're going to do is find the end where the beginning of the film, and you want to just go ahead and cut that off so it's nice and even. And so you want to go ahead and load that into the film reel like this, and you want to push it in a little bit, and then see if you can get it caught on the little ball bearings which are in here. Sometimes you can just pull it forward just a little bit. There we go. Now this can be an especially difficult thing to do, so don't get too frustrated if you're having trouble with it. It's not exactly something that's easy to learn on the first try. Now as you can see, as I ratchet it forward, it's pulling the film forward as I ratchet it. And when you're doing this in the dark, you can sort of feel with your thumbs that the film's moving forward, and when you ratchet back it doesn't really move back. And sometimes you have to kind of put a little bit of pressure here to make sure it doesn't come back. And so it's going to go onto the reel just like this. See, I'm almost at the end here. Now what this is doing is that it's putting all the film on this reel, but in such a way so that it's all separated, so that the chemicals can go across the entire film plane without anything touching each other. And sometimes you have to get a little creative in the last few steps here. Okay, so eventually you're going to reach the end here where you have the end of the film reel. And then you're going to take your scissors again, and you're going to go ahead and just cut that end off. So once you do that, you can ratchet just a couple more times, and then the film will be all the way on the roll there. So now it is ready to go back into the tank. So first what you do is you take your core here, and you go ahead and put that through. And you want to make sure that the bottom part of the core goes down. Put that back in here, and then take your lid, screw it back on, and then you're good. Your vessel is light tight. The purpose of the red lid is to keep the liquid inside as you're doing the developing. So you put this all back together, and then you can take your arms out of the bag, unzip the bag, and take it all out, and you're ready to develop your roll of film. Okay, so now I'm actually going to do the real thing, where I'm going to go ahead and rewind the film in my camera here. Rewind it all the way. You can feel when it comes loose. So when you do that, you can go ahead and pop it open. And so there's my roll of film right there. Go ahead and take that out. So now I have my roll of film that I've shot, And if this gets exposed to light, then it's going to destroy all the photos. So I have this, I have all the pieces of my developing tank, I have my scissors, I have my bottle opener, and now I'm going to go ahead and put all of this inside my changing bag here. So I have everything in there, and me putting my arms in here is going to finish the process of sealing it off. And as strange as this might look, this is definitely how it works. So now I have all my tools and my film and everything in here. So first I'm going to find my roll of film and my bottle opener. Where's my film at? Okay, so now I'm at the end of the roll. It's ratcheted onto the reel. And I'm going to take the scissors and cut off that end part. Center column, go ahead and put that through the film reel, and then go ahead and put it down in the developing tank. And then find the lid, and go ahead and very securely screw the lid to the developing tank back on here. So now you can go ahead and unzip your changing bag. My film's in here. I got my film canisters open, scissors into the film reel. And now, assuming our chemicals are the right temperature, we are ready to start developing. Okay, so now we're finally ready to actually do the developing of the film. So the basic way it's going to work is first I'm going to do a pre-rinse under the tap for about 2 to 3 minutes. I'm going to try and get the temperature as close to 68 degrees as possible. My chemicals right now are as close to 68 degrees Fahrenheit as I can get them. So everything is all the same, and I wrote down my developing times just on a little note card here. Developing 13 minutes, stop bath 1 minute, fixer 5 minutes, and then rinse for 10 minutes and 30 seconds. So here we go. Okay. Okay, now I've set my iPad here for 13 minutes, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to agitate it for the first 40 seconds. I'm going to stop, and then at the top of every minute, I'm going to agitate it for 20 seconds, tap it on the counter to get rid of any air bubbles, and then let it sit and for the remainder of the 40 seconds of that minute, and continue to do that for the next 13 minutes. So here we go. Go ahead and pour in my developer. Go ahead and put the cap on, start my timer, and agitate. Now the way I like to agitate is like this, up and down, and I'm also turning it sideways. And you can see it's going to leak just a little bit, and that's okay. And you want to go ahead and agitate it just kind of gently. If you agitate it too much, then too much of the light-sensitive chemical is going to be stripped from the film, and you don't want that. So there's my first 40 seconds. So I tap it to knock off any air bubbles that might be sticking to the film. So that way, as it sits there in the developer, there won't be sort of these little spots that are protected by air and not getting developed. So you really want to, if you're doing it this way and not with the app, which is a better way to do it, you want to go ahead and pay very close attention to the clock. For the first 20 seconds of each minute now. There we go. So now I'm just going to let it sit for the remainder of 40 seconds of this minute. I'm just going to keep doing that for the remainder of the 13 minutes. Now the next part of what I'm going to do is the stop bath. So I'm going to try and do it as quickly as possible once I'm done with the developing, in that I'm going to pour the developer out, and because it can't be reused, and then I'm going to reset the timer quickly for 1 minute, pour in the stop bath, agitate for about 40 seconds, and then let it sit for the remainder of the 20 seconds of that 1 minute for the stop bath. The stop bath is there to stop the developing process, and it helps to make it more precise. Now technically, the stop bath is not actually needed for the developing process. Technically, you really only need the developer and the fixer. As a substitute for stop bath, if you want to be a little less precise, or you just don't want to spend money, you can just go ahead and run the film underwater for several minutes and under the tap, and that will rinse off most of the developer and stop the developing process. Okay, so I'm almost done with developing my film here. Okay, so my alarm's about to go off. Take my top off here. Okay, so I'm pouring out my developer, Now, I'm not suggesting that you should pour out your developer down the drain, but that's what I'm doing. Quickly reset it to 1 minute. Go ahead and pour in the stop bath. Go ahead and hit start. I'm going to go ahead and agitate this so that it gets on the film, and agitate it for about 20 to 30 seconds. And then knock the bubbles off by tapping it on the counter. And then I'm going to go ahead and just let it sit in the stop bath. So this is stopping the developing process. Now the cool thing about the stop bath is that you can reuse it. So you can use your funnel here. Go ahead and take your stop bath and just pour it back into the canister. Okay, so at this point things are a little less time critical, because right now we have already developed our film and we have used the stop bath to go ahead and stop the process. So now the only thing that's left is we need to use the fixer, which is this chemical here, to go ahead and make it so that the film is no longer sensitive to light. Okay, so for the fixer, I need to do 5 minutes. I'm going to set that to 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and pour this in. Start. And it's the same basic thing. So agitate for the first 40 seconds of the first minute, and then the first 20 seconds of each remaining minute. Okay, now it is important to know that you can under or over fix the film, and that can definitely cause problems. So you definitely want to get the timing right, both with the developing and the fixer. So the fixer you can go ahead and pour back into its bottle. It's developed, it's fixed. The only thing we have left to do is go ahead and rinse it under the sink. And just let it go like that for 10.5 minutes. All right, so I have rinsed my film under the water for about 10.5 minutes. Okay, so now our film is developed, it's perfectly fine and fixed, so we can go ahead and open our light, tight developing tank here and do our final steps. So you can see we have our film in our canister here, and what we're going to do is we're going to now use distilled water and photo flow. Now this is not a very exact way to do it, but I just add just about a quarter cap full, just a little bit goes a long way. Pour that in, and then fill it with distilled water so that it covers the film. There we go. Now the purpose of photo flow is essentially to kind of clean the film. It's there to get the water spots off. So you can go ahead and just kind of agitate it a little bit. If you want to, you can use this thing here. You can go ahead and spin the film. Now you want to wash it in the photo flow, maybe 2 to 4 minutes, something like that. Not too long. Okay, that's good enough. Go ahead and pour that out. So now we have our film. It's on the reel. The easiest way to get it off is to just go ahead and take it apart like this. And see, I still have a whole roll of film correctly developed. So here it is. Now, you can use a squeegee, a rubber squeegee, but these days I really prefer to use my fingers. Go ahead and get all that excess water off. Now at this point you want to go ahead and hang it. And I found that the easiest way to do that is just get some clamps from a local store and hang it off of the shower rod in your bathroom. And you have one clip for hanging it at the top, and then you weight it at the bottom with another clip so that it hangs straight, and it'll come out straight. And then so let it dry overnight, and then once it's dry, you go ahead and cut it into strips of 5, put it into a print file like this. A print file is a brand name. This is a plastic archival sleeve, basically, where you're going to put each strip of film, and you can put that in the binder. And then you can do whatever you want with the film. You can scan it, you can take it to be developed for pictures, whatever you would like to do. The first time you develop, or the second or the third, it's likely that you may screw up. So don't feel badly if things go completely wrong, or you completely screw it up, because it always happens to beginners. It happened to me when I was younger, but just keep at it, keep going. And if you have any additional questions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. Bye.